Hey guys, what's happening? RJ coming at you with another King of Fighters 98 Ultimate Match Online video. And today I wanted to get into yet another unreleased fighter on Global. But yet again, if you are watching this in the future, hey man, he might be here. So who are we talking about today? I am going to be talking about Magaki, the MUDADADA man himself. He is an Aptitude 15 tank fighter. He's, I believe he's going to be the second tank to make his way onto Global after Omega Rugal. He's running around with a pretty ridiculously high resistance rate, and he's also got a really high anti-crit. His damage isn't half bad either. He's got a great block percentage on him, but his offensive stats, they aren't that great, but he's not here to do damage. He's just here to tell you everything's useless. His feature is he's an evil manipulator, and you're going to see why in a few minutes. He manipulates. He's like the little puppet master up in here. He messes with everything on the enemy's team. Let's get into his fates first before I get too ahead of myself. Right here we got Evil Consciousness with Magaki, Chang, Orochi, and Rugal. Orochi and Rugal, they're bosses, but they're the original bosses. Can get their frags in different stores at this point. So not too hard of a fate to complete. I mean, if you're free to play, you can definitely work on grabbing Orochi and Rugal, unlocking them for free. Down here we got Remote Team Leader with Magaki, Saki, and Mukai. That's a triple API 15 fate. That's going to be a pretty hard one to complete if you're not already picking up Saki and Mukai for your main team. I wouldn't chase API 15s just to complete fates, And then down here we got Demon Eyes with Magaki, Orochi, Chris, Iori, and Leona. So that'll be a pretty easy fate to complete. So 2 out of 3, pretty easy to complete, and then you've got a definite hard mode fate in the middle there. Moving down, he's going to be requiring Gale badges and kickboxing tomes. So if you're planning on him, save a few of those up, or hit up those, tome exchanges, badge exchanges, and flip a few of your old ones for some of these if you need them. Preparation is key. Moving into his ridiculous skill set, he's got Blast Ball. Attacks a column, recovering 2 times his own defense worth of health. Copies the front target debuff onto the column's rear target. He cannot copy Petrification, the EG debuff when he dies, and the Magaki passive debuff also when he dies. Though we'll get into Magaki in a minute, but basically the EG buff where he dies and gives a ridiculous you can't pass that one around. That'd be broken. He also dispels the front target buff, and if no skill in previous round, the skill is guaranteed in the next round. I got to unpack this for a second here. There's a few things going on I just wanted to break down and explain. The first thing that he does is he will copy any debuffs that are on the front target and send them on to the guy behind him. So if the front target has soul burning on him, when he goes and throws his blast ball, it's gonna move that soul burning onto the back target as well. So that's a really fun ability to be throwing around. I mean, it works with everything. I mean, you name a debuff other than the 3 things listed here, and he's going to be passing them on to the back row. That's a pretty amazing ability on its own. But not only does it do that, it also dispels the front target buff. So we're talking if there's a Mary and she's gone ha 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 and gotten her defense buff, he just throws his ball and it's gone. You know, so he can really do a number on tanks by taking out their self buffs and stuff like that. And then the third thing is this skill is guaranteed every other round. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but just on its own, that's pretty awesome that they threw that into there. So he's definitely, this, you know, luck plays a factor, sure, but you've got this thing guaranteed every other round, bumping around debuffs and also clearing their front row, or whoever he's hitting, I guess, if you broke through the back. But normally at the start of the match, it's the front row he's going to be clearing buffs off of, right? So it's a mouthful, but that's a pretty broken ability, and we're just at his small skill. And then there's not too much to be overpowered in these passives, but he gets damage and health. And then in his ultimate ability, it's called Cosmic Distortion. He attacks 3 random enemies, increases his own 20% damage and 20% resistance rate, 50% chance to confuse the targets. Confused targets cannot ultimate or use their small skill, can only attack Magaki. Magaki will also copy its attacker's buff after receiving their attack. If the target is not confused after being attacked, Magaki will deal 2 times additional damage based on Magaki's defense. The fewer total fighters remaining, the higher the damage, maximum of 100% buff on it. Effects increased after awakening and will absorb health from confused targets. Okay, I gotta go back a second again and unbox this thing as well, because this is all wrapped up in one neat little package. So he's going to randomly hit 3 guys with his ultimate, and those 3 guys each have a 50% chance to be confused. And if they do get confused, this works exactly like a taunt. If you've played an MMO game or whatever, he's a tank and he's got a taunt. He forces your guys to attack him without doing anything else. No skill, no ultimates. They're just going to run up and punch him in the face lightly and then run away. But while they do that, he's going to be copying their buffs. So, I mean, if you confuse a geese in avatar mode and he runs up and punches him, all of a sudden Magaki has avatar mode. If Orochi Yashiro goes "Aah!" and punches something and gets his defense buff, and then he gets confused and punches Magaki after that, Magaki is going to copy that defense buff, and he'll start stacking all this crap and become really, really, really hard to kill. So he steals buffs. He doesn't steal them, but he copies them, right? That in itself is a really amazing ability, on top of the extra resistance rate and stuff as well. I mean, it's a really, really great ultimate move for a tank. But he's not done. But wait, there's more! Act now and you'll get some spatiotemporal distortion! This is his ability where he will decrease all enemies' attack. It's the same thing as Ash, but will not stack with anybody else that decreases attack, like Orochi Leona, Mei, Orochi Shermie, Ash. But it will also, on top of, you know, decreasing all the enemy's attacks, it increases his own defense by 20%, an additional 5% defense for every attack received, maximum of 6 stacks. So that means he takes 6 hits and he's got a 50% defense buff right here from his passive. And also, just because why not give this guy more stuff? When he dies, he will permanently decrease his killer's 50% attack rate, 50% resistance rate, and 50% rage regeneration. Immune to confusion, and he is also immune to debuffs in round 1. I mean, he's got it all. So I mean, he's got the decrease all enemy attack. It's not just male; it's everybody. And this number will go up as you level the skill. He boosts himself. He boosts himself with 20% defense right off the bat, and then as the match goes on and he gets hit a little bit more, his defense keeps going up. You know, and then he's got that crazy, you know, you kill me, I kill you type thing, and he's immune to all debuffs in round 1. You know, and then it gets even better when you start looking at his fight soul, because he's a bear soul. Why not, right? A tank with a bear soul. But he also has a little bit of turtle soul in there because he recovers some rage when attacked, right? So, I mean, when we put all this together, you know, he can't be debuffed on turn 1. So even if you're missing the priority, this guy's not getting controlled, right? And then secondly, he's going to ultimate on his first turn as soon as he's ready to attack, because nobody's messed with his rage and he can't be debuffed, right? So generally, you know, he's gonna, you know, not be controlled. He's gonna get his ultimate off, and then he's absolutely, you know, gonna do this to somebody. I mean, and with a 50% chance at 3 random enemies, you're almost guaranteed to get at least one of them confused. And confuse is one of those strange debuffs, because Ignis won't specifically go after confuse. He will ignore confuse on its own. If a fighter has a silence, a paralysis, a froze, a soul burning, you know, one of those regular crowd controls that Ignis will get rid of, plus a confuse, then Ignis will get rid of everything. But unless, you know, somebody that is confused also has one of these other, you know, crowd control debuffs on them, Ignis will completely ignore the confused person and just let it happen, just because, you know, Ignis doesn't really care about you that much. Ignis is only here for himself. You know, I don't know what you guys are spending your diamonds on, but Ignis just wants them for himself. That's the truth. So he's got, you know, this ultimate move that confuses people, and it generally won't be taken away, you know. And then just for fun, he can throw the debuffs from the front row to the back row, dispels the enemy team's front target buffs. I mean, this guy's got it all except for some damage. He doesn't really do a whole lot of damage, but you know, you don't need him to with all this other crazy stuff that he's doing. He is just absolutely manipulating the other team into doing whatever he wants them to. You know, he steals buffs, he clears buffs off the other team, he passes your debuffs around so that everybody gets a whiff of the soul burning. You know, and then if somebody actually does end up killing him, they get this insane debuff put on them that absolutely destroys their attack, it destroys their resistance rate and their rage regeneration. So I mean, there's not much you're going to really want to do to this guy, but you definitely want him on your team. So being a bear soul and also a tank, he can fit on a whole bunch of different teams, especially if you know, you're one of the people that is looking for a tank and you didn't really want to go with Omega Rugal. This is a guy you should really give a bit of consideration to, because he's going to be a really strong tank for a really long time. You know, he is one of the better tanks in the game, in my opinion, because there's not a whole lot you can really do about him. He's going to just keep going MUDADADA almost every round, you know, and really messing with the other team. So if you're looking for a tank, definitely give this guy a look, because he is definitely where it's at for tanks. With the amount that he brings to the table, he should be considered for a lot of different teams. I mean, even if you're not running around with somebody that decreases all enemy attack yet, that's a huge buff to your entire team, because it doesn't matter who they're hitting, they're getting a reduced attack rate, right? So he brings just everything to the table that you would want in a tank. There's not much else I could really say other than he's awesome, and if you're trying to pull him, good luck to you, because he will serve you well. That's about it for my take on Magaki. I hope I gave you guys a bit of insight into what Magaki does, and whether or not he's going to be a good fit for your team or not. So have a good one, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.